wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcast, the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Good evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to another great edition of the Wrestle Talk Podcast. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So tonight is another great episode number 472, where we will be talking about the events of MLW from this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to be recapping that during hour 2, but as always, we'll be talking everything from WWE, AEW, you name it, and we'll have it. But as always, I'm not here alone. So let's go ahead and bring in my co-host for the first hour, the one and only Gabriel R.C.
Good evening, Hardcore Hoss. How you holding up, dude?
All right, how you doing tonight, Gabriel?
I'm doing all right. I'm just ready to talk about some MLW. There's a lot to discuss. Got my notes and everything. I try to catch up.
Yeah, that should be a great time when you and Luke will be talking about that in the second hour, and just looking forwards to it. But as always, before we get to all that,
We have a lot of high spots questions.
Well, we got a lot of high spots and everything. So what have you been up to?
Just been working, honestly. This store I'm at isn't the greatest, so it's kind of a valley, but we're getting through it. But I've been watching a lot of wrestling. I'm almost done finishing the G1 Climax.
That, from what I've heard, that's a pretty good show. I haven't actually got to see it myself yet. So.
4 stars. Check it out. It's a lot of good wrestling. Eddie Kingston, Shingo Takagi.
All right. Well, as always, though, before we get into too much here, let me go ahead and shout out our wonderful sponsors that we've got here, because we definitely would not be here without them. So, as always, we want to thank our great sponsors, Royal Mills Transportation, the one and only Dewan Mills. We got Nobleman's Barber Lounge and KCMO. Ask for Pete the Barber. Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall. Interstate 70 Sports Media. Little Papa's Designs, where you get your Wrestle Talk Podcast tumbler. And the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group, which both, Gabe and I know a little bit about. I know a lot of our viewers have been checking it out. And we both hold championships over there, and it's good time. Why don't you tell them a little bit about it there, Gabe?
Well, I'll tell you, Hardcore Hoss, the FWWC is for anybody who doesn't feel like they have the opportunity to be a real pro wrestler, to sort of flex their pro wrestling, fun-having selves, I guess, is the best way I can describe it. If you enjoy, coming up with storylines or thinking you can book a better product than the WWE, why don't you step into the FWWC, the Fantasy Wrestling Worldwide chapter? And maybe, just maybe, if you got a set big enough, you can take these titles off of me and Hardcore Hoss here.
Yeah, that's right. So shout out to Susie Haas. Another member of the FWWC. It's always great to to hear from our fans. So make sure that you shout out in the comments there. And as always, it doesn't matter if you are watching us live or whether you're watching that replay. We appreciate you and we're glad that you're here. We're glad that you're tuning in. But, we have to start out as we always do. And you know what that means. It is time that we pay homage to one of the best countries around, not one of the best country around, that being America. So if you place your hands over your heart, remove your hats for the playing of our national anthem. Whoop, wrong button. Wrong
Night Owl
button.
was gonna kill you.
Some people would probably prefer to hear that than the national anthem, but let's try this again. I tell you, it brings a tear to your eye or blood to your ears every time, one of the two. You know, how much better can it get?
Well, now a lot better since the music stopped.
So, as always, shout out to
Good evening,
Assad.
Assad. Yeah, El Luchador de KC.
So,
So, Hardcore Hoss, actually, if we could comment on this, since we got a long time to fill here, as Hardcore Champion, you selected El Luchador de KC as one of your potential number one contenders, squaring off against one Sky King Oni for your Hardcore Championship. And who scored the win last night? I wasn't able to catch the match itself.
they actually tied once again. So, right now with this 5-match series they're in, I give them 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie. I just learned how to count. 1 point for a tie, and of course, no points for loss. And so far, both matches have been ties, so they're still tied 2-2. So they're both fighting very hard for it, though. Um, I felt that they were both people that in the FWWC have been, uh, they've been kind of looked down upon. They haven't gotten the recognition that they deserve in the time they've been here, and just don't seem to get the respect. So I thought, I know how that feels. There's been times that, I felt like I haven't gotten the respect. So I figured, why don't I show them a little respect by giving them a shot to earn contendership? And, they're both doing a great job so far with the program. And I look forward to seeing which one I actually end up with in a graveyard match, So I look forward to burying one of them. I don't know which one.
You seem confident. So I have to ask you then, out of the two, who would you like to face the least?
It doesn't really matter. I've faced Lucha before. Lucha and I actually, when I first came in, we ran a few programs together, and we actually had a pretty good program together that people did pay attention to. Uh, we actually had, or at least I had, people coming to me asking me, "Why do you hate him so bad?" And I'm like, "I don't hate him." But they just thought I did, though, because of the program we had going. And so I know he can put on a great program. Um, I have faced Oni before as well. and I know Oni can put on a good program as well. And I don't have as much experience facing Oni as I do with Lucha, but I look forward to facing whichever one. I don't dread seeing either of them. I mean, they're both tough competitors. Don't get me wrong, but I don't dread facing either of them.
Now, can I ask you a follow-up question?
Sure.
They're 2 matches into their 5-match series, correct?
Yes.
They are currently tied at 2 apiece. On the very off chance that there is a tie all the way through, are you prepared to defend against both competitors at the same time?
Well, as it stands right now, if they end up in a tie, I get to choose which one. And I'm watching very closely. I'm watching their promos. I'm watching to see if they're both being active. I'm watching the role plays. I'm watching it all just to see which one really fights out to see who wants it the most. So there's a chance I could pick them both. Who knows? But we'll
Do
see
you
what
think that's
happens.
wise to do?
Well, it gives me less of a chance to win, but gives me more ass to beat. So yeah.
Well, I wish you luck in your future endeavors.
But it's going to be interesting. But I think it's time that we definitely get into some high spots here. So let's go ahead and let me cue up that music for our high spots segment. So let's go ahead and kick it off with DJ Money.
Mic check, mic check. Yeah! Alright. Wrestle Talk Podcast. DJ Money. Yeah. Let's go. Welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like flare chops. We talk shop, coming through the screens of a laptop. And non-stop like a running speakers of blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and backdrops. Like a clock flash, look like a belly flop. Now that's hard. We up to speed while they stay slow. Wrestle Talk Podcast, now they know. We about to start the show.
DJ Money always hitting hard. Love that DJ Money. And for the viewers out there, if you're joining us from another website, such as the FWWC website, be sure that you go in and allow comments or give permissions to StreamYard. Otherwise, we can't see your name and you come across like that.
Yeah, like hold up, I'm trying to, which way would it be? Like that.
Yeah.
See how it says Facebook user? We don't know who you are, and we appreciate the comment, but we can't really interact with it when we say that you're there.
So shout out to whoever you are. But yeah, so make sure you give those permissions to StreamYard so that we know who you are, because we love to interact with you. We love to interact with all of our fans. And yes, Susie, we see you. So you're good to go.
Be like Susie.
But all right, well, as we said, it's time for that high spot. So as always, I gotta get that randomizer in there. If I don't, the Night Owl will fire me. That is for sure. This randomizer is his baby. So randomizer and Ethernet cables. But all right, let's go ahead and hit this randomizer.
Ooh, this is a good one to start with.
Yes, Paul Heyman, who has been named to the Hall of Fame, and it was announced yesterday that Paul Heyman will be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Do you agree with this or think it should have waited? So that is our question. Now, you want me to go ahead and start there, Gabe?
Go ahead.
All right. Um, in my honest opinion, I think Paul Heyman is deserving of the Hall of Fame. Yeah, he is one heck of a mouthpiece for the people he represents. He's been around for a while. Um, so he's not some fly by night person that's around. So I think he is deserving of it. Um, now, in all honesty, there are some who say, well, but you shouldn't go in the Hall of Fame as long as you're active in the business. They should wait till you retire.
I
And
was
normally I am on that side of the coin normally.
I'm opposed to that, honestly. It's not a huge deal for me.
Well, I say normally I am on that side of the coin just because to me it's a little weird when you have people in the Hall of Fame and they're still there. Yeah, to me Hall of Fame is somebody who's been there, made their mark on the business and made it better and they're no longer there. That's why you're honoring them. But in this case, I think Paul can be an exception to the rules. So that's my opinion on it. Shout out to Sonny. What's up, Sonny? Great
What's
to
up,
have you out
Sonny?
there.
Welcome to the show, Sonny. But
So,
I mean, I'm glad you think that because I agree with you, Haas. I'm on the opposite end of it. I don't mind it to begin with, whether it's Heyman or Rey Mysterio, because it's not really a huge deal for me. Like, if anything, that just kind of adds an extra layer to a story because it's like, okay, so a legend is now an active part of a roster. Like, you know, it adds that extra oomph when they do something. Like when Dominic knocks out his father, it's like, oh God, he's a Hall of Famer, and he did that to him. So doing the same thing for Paul Heyman, if anything, because he's with the Bloodline, I think they're just gonna milk it. You know?
and Susie pointed out, Rey Mysterio is in the Hall of Fame. But, to me, I think Rey kind of gets overlooked with his Hall of Fame status. And part of that, I feel, is because he is still active. And, it's to some people, it's just too soon to put him in Hall of Fame when they're still active. But at least in my humble opinion. But um, I think Paul is one that he's been around long enough. I think that he's good to go in there and they can uh, they can make it work. But like not to put him down, but Gunther, I don't think he would be a Hall of Fame candidate yet. I think he has a long time to go.
Yeah,
So
that's a whole different like ball though.
but with his title reign, he's one that I've actually heard in Hall of Fame discussions. Oh yeah, he should make the Hall of Fame. He's the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. He's beat the reign of people who are in the Hall of Fame already. But
Whoever tells you that is foolish.
you know, but that's just my opinion. But what do I know? So, do you have anything else to say on the topic?
No, nothing nice. No, I'm just kidding. That's messed up. No, I mean, I'm totally okay with it. I think it's a great, especially because I'm really struggling to think of who else they have left to add in the Hall of Fame that isn't already sort of there. So Heyman is a pretty good example to open up with, at least that we can fall back on, especially because I feel like they can work it into an angle because Roman and The Rock are probably going to be the ones inducting him.
Well, and there's plenty of people that have made Hall of Fame or should make Hall of Fame that they've decided let's kind of erase them. you know? So like honestly, Vince McMahon would be in that category right now. They're kind of trying to erase him so he wouldn't be uh in there anymore. And
Well, I wanna throw this out there because WWE has been a lot more open since Triple H is in charge. Do we see the potential addition of, I don't know, foreign talent that we wouldn't have seen otherwise? Because Charlie Dempsey was in All Japan Pro Wrestling, so that'd be pretty cool if they put in like the Giant Baba.
yeah, I could see them doing something like that. Now I know, like, was it Snuka that they they say his wife's murder got covered up, and they kind of erased him from the Hall of Fame because of it. Yeah, because it was said he may have killed his wife. So there's a lot of them that they are just erasing. So um, I don't know who they could have put in there. I don't know who else they're putting in there for that matter. But um, I
Paul
think
Heyman's a
Paul
good
was a good
start.
fit. But all right, so let's go ahead and hit
He's
that
earned it.
randomizer, and yeah, let's hit that randomizer and see what else it'll pop out. Ooh,
Good old Chris Rodell wrote this one.
yes, this was one submitted by Rodell, and he's asking, should AEW rein in the high impact spots that Darby Allin does? Would you like to start this one, Gabe?
I guess I can. This is a hard question because I'm not the person to tell somebody how they should wrestle. But I'm just concerned for the man's health. Cuz it's hard to see spots like these. I mean, I'm sure he's used to them, but I mean, I haven't even watched the entire match either. I've only just seen the pictures of him laying in the glass, and people are saying it's real glass, and that's alarming for a guy as small as Darby Allin.
Yeah. Honestly, when it comes to people like Darby Allin, when it comes to people like uh, Jeff Hardy, when it comes to people like um, uh, anyway, names seem to be escaping my mind for some reason. But John Moxley, he's another one. Um, it's hard to rein them in from stuff like that because that's part of their persona. And I guess
I
I
never
can
minded
kind of,
Moxley as much. And
well,
Darby, it was, I mean, he did it a bunch, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, tone it down
yeah, well,
just a tiny bit.
and I can see why they would want to tone it down because, like you say, it's their health, uh, it's the hell that these guys are going through. But and the dangers of them getting seriously hurt and shortening their career or ending their career altogether. So I can see where they would think they need to rein it in. I can see where some people would want it reined in. Um, Now, I know my character is just fantasy character, but with the way I've taken my character a little more dark, I can see where spots where they're bleeding, spots where they're dangerous. I can see where it plays into the persona. I can see where it helps further their persona more, and fans would expect to see it. Um, so from that aspect, I would say from safety, yes, they should rein it in, but I think at this point it may hurt their character if they do, just because that's what people expect.
Well, and it's tricky to put a dime or a finger on it, I guess, because I've been to sort of tie it into the theme tonight. One wrestler, Akira, or Akira. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it.
Akira.
He has a very hardcore style to him, and that's his appeal. Is that he goes through hell and back just to put on these kind of fights, and it puts you in the mind of like Mick Foley back in the day, and a lot of stuff Mick did was very unnecessary. No doubt shaving years off his life. So it's hard to ask that of people because that's what they want to do, but we're also kind of like, why do we want that?
Shout out to Owen out there tonight, checking in from the state of California. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned Akira. I have seen him live. I actually went to um, a deathmatch tournament down in lower part of West Virginia. Sis and I both went, and Nightmare Jones, and he was there, and that he actually won the tournament that year, and that might be the first time he won the tournament. Um, and that there were some violent matches and some very violent spots in those matches. Um, you know, but that's what we went to. We were going expecting because the fact we were going to death matches. But if that's what these people like to do, and like I say, there's a lot of them. Like John Moxley. If he got in the ring and he didn't have these high impact spots, would his character be so entertaining anymore? Being that that's what you come to expect from him.
I mean, the appeal of John Moxley for me is the fact that he blades. I mean, I personally don't mind the character as much. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would enjoy the character as much.
And Owen says that Darby is the Spike Dudley of AEW.
I I consider him more of a Jeff Hardy, but I guess Spike Dudley
Yeah,
is more comparable because he's smaller.
I look at the spots he puts in more as Jeff Hardy than Spike as well. But um, Darby tries to emulate Sting style, uh, and Sting was always known for being extreme. Yeah, so yeah, I really can't see reining these guys in that you expect to do it. Now, do you need to see it every single week? Probably not, but you do expect it with a lot of these guys. So, okay. If any of the fans out there, if you guys have anything that you want to discuss, feel free to drop us a line. If you've got a good take, we're willing to bring you on. We'll shoot you the link. You can come on. You can chat with us. If you've got a good take and wanna come on and give us your take on something we're discussing, by all means, we're always open to bringing people on. So just drop a line and be more than happy to shoot you a link. And Susie says this Saturday at WDWA, Moose from TNA takes on DeMarcus Kane, and that is going to be a championship match. Moose's title will be on the line, so that should be a good match. Look forward to seeing that. DeMarcus Kane, a member of the Wrestle Talk family, we've had him on here before, so both of those guys are stacked guys. They're big guys, and so I look forward to seeing
Moose is
those
a
two collide.
beast.
So, all right, well, let's go ahead and hit that randomizer again and see what it brings up. There it is. The gauntlet match. So, if you missed it on Raw last night, they did announce that there would be a gauntlet match next Monday on Raw. And that the winner of this gauntlet match will be facing Gunther at WrestleMania 40. Now, as you can see, the 6 men that are in the gauntlet match there. So, who do you have to be facing Gunther at WrestleMania 40? So, out of those 6 men, who do you think can take that gauntlet match and face Gunther at WrestleMania 40? Gabe?
Oh boy. I mean, you can look at a couple and get a couple answers, but to give you my answer, I want Chad Gable. Because I think back to how he was the one who got the title shot by outlasting him for 5 minutes. And then his match, he had like his daughter in the front row and she got all sad. And it's like they need to recapture that moment at Mania. And then it's like two birds with one stone. It's a Mania moment. You break Gunther's record, and then you also get Chad Gable his first title, and it's the workhorse title. It'd be the ultimate pinnacle of this huge event. But that's just me.
Yeah, storyline wise, I would have to go with Chad because, like you say, that whole thing with his kids, and he even brought that up last night himself. Hey, look, he embarrassed me in front of my kids, and he made my kids cry, and I want redemption. So I look for him to be the one to take it to get his chance at redemption. You know, and Owen says he'd love to see Bronson Reed win, but that won't happen. He's a big fan of Reed. Um, he also said Sammy. So that might be that would be a decent match. Sammy versus
Sammy
Gunther.
versus Gunther would be fine. I think they could probably turn it into something good. But I guess I just want Gable. That's me though.
But
Not
we
speaking
do
on
have
behalf of all the
someone.
WWE fans.
We do have someone backstage now. I'd like to get his take on who he looks to be going against Gunther to come out of this match. So let me go ahead and bring him in here. Everybody knows the man himself, Mr. Luke Skywalker Roberts.
All right, gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the Wrestle Talk podcast. We're in the high spots, and I'm going to tell you right now, guys, you don't get to see this too often. It's now baseball season. It's Cubs season. And I'm going to tell you right now, not only is it Cubs season, it's WrestleMania season. And Hoss, if you'd be so kind, can you pull that graphic back up for just a minute? I want to emphasize a couple points here. If you can bring that graphic back up. I mean, again, this is pretty much a who's who here. You've got Ricochet, a consistent contender for that championship. We've already heard a very big story, a very big pitch for Chad Gable. Sami Zayn, another one of those that I could agree with a lot of the listeners of the Wrestle Talk podcast saying Sami could be the one there.
He's a
Bronson
former
Reed.
Intercontinental Champion.
That is true, and a very long time Intercontinental Champion, as a matter of fact. When you look at what's here as well, Big Bronson Reed, the man that the Night Owl, Renee Martinez, supports in this gauntlet matchup. Shinsuke Nakamura, another man who's no stranger to the Intercontinental Championship. And you have J.D. McDonough, the wild card in this matchup. I'm going to tell you right now, I've got 3 opinions. And again, this is kind of being really lack of objective here. My head goes with Chad Gable. My heart goes with Sami Zayn. But gnawing in the back of my head, and I'll tell you right now, I'm going for the wild card. J.D. McDonough walks out with that opportunity.
Do you think that Judgment Day gets that big WrestleMania moment to contrast last year?
What more can you ask, Gabe? I mean, when you sit here and you look at it, this is going to be everything is on the table for the Judgment Day. You've got a women's championship match. You've got the Money in the Bank, senior Money in the Bank, to be a little more correct. You've got JD McDonough with a chance at the Intercontinental Championship. And who's left out here? Finn Balor. A man who honestly should be on the WrestleMania card. And he's actually, in my opinion, on the outside looking in here. What do you think, guys? Where do you think Finn Balor fits into this whole picture?
Are they defending the tag titles?
I don't recall that they're defending the tag championships. I know for a fact that we can have our great Wrestle Talk podcast media team look that up as we're going here. Oz, if they're not defending the tag team championships, then who do you see Finn Balor going against, or unfortunately does he sit on the sidelines for this WrestleMania?
Honestly, I would say he probably would end up sitting on the sidelines if he's not defending. But of course, he will make appearances. He'll pop out there in the middle of matches, especially if JD McDonough's in the IC match. But I can't see if he's not defending the tag titles, I can't see why he wouldn't be in that 6-man for the IC.
Well, I got to tell you right now, guys, and again, a shout out to our great media department who was making sure this was taken care of quickly. As of right now, there are no tag matches confirmed for WrestleMania as of this point in time.
Wow. I thought just about pretty much every title was going to be defended. Susie said they should have Finn versus Priest.
No. There's a lot more competitors that Finn Balor can go against. One that's out here too, and I just want to throw it out here, and it's not necessarily putting it in Gunther, but you got to look at the other side, and Gabriel brought it up a few minutes ago. Who challenges a Logan Paul? Right now, nothing's confirmed. Who do we have face Logan Paul at WrestleMania? You must have to have that happen.
And Owen says they got to have at least one tag match. Well, they do have at least one tag match because now you've got the Rock and Roman tag match happening against Cody and what's
Seth.
that? Yeah, against Cody and Seth. So you do have at least one tag match happening. But I still think the tag title should be defended.
Well, Hoss, I'm going to throw this out here, gentlemen. I know we talked about the Intercontinental title, and I know we don't have a pretty little graphic for the United States title. Who do you suggest wrestles for the United States title? It's got to be defended at WrestleMania. Hoss, your thoughts? Who wrestles Logan Paul?
Storyline-wise, I would say they should throw KO back out there again. They still got the whole feud going back and forth between KO and Logan, and I think that's about the most interesting thing they have going with Logan right now.
Mr. Gabriel, what's your thoughts?
It kind of ties into another question we have in the randomizer, but I think that the U.S. title should be the mid-card title that we have in a ladder match. I think Logan should get cocky. I think this is how I would book it, right? This is Gabe's booking, is that Logan Paul gets cocky because he beat KO, and he says, I could take any man, anybody here in the roster, and everybody just shows up. It's just like you can throw whoever you don't have in the current match right now. So you got KO. Here, just start throwing some names out there. Bronson Reed, maybe.
Well, hold on a second here. Hoss, can you bring up that last comment again? Because I think that's a very valid point. Logan facing Orton, that's valid. I'm just on the weird tangent tonight. I've already talked about JD McDonough wrestling for the Intercontinental title. How about this one for the U.S. title? Logan Paul versus Pat McAfee.
Hey, I'd watch it.
That'd get a lot of coverage.
I doubt Pat would win it as much as I'd like to see him win it, but I'd definitely watch it. I
And again,
think
that's one of
Pat.
the things we're looking at. We're looking at right now, guys, is the idea we're on the road to WrestleMania. They've got to have something that's going to draw people's opinion. And I know we've talked about this before, and I'm just going to level with you. As Seth Rollins said last night, we're tired of Dwayne and his 21-minute interviews and things like that. I'm not going to go into the whole Cody's crybabies and all that other stuff. I mean, that's totally up to you guys on, but I'm going to tell you right now, we need something that's going to make an impact. And I think, honestly, Logan Paul, Pat McAfee could be that match to make an impact. I mean, think about last year. Totally by accident. What was one of the matches that they talked about? The Miz and Snoop Dogg. Totally by accident.
Well, and you bring that up, and
It's true.
to think about it, there's always some type of celebrity hype to WrestleMania. And what celebrity hype do we have so far?
Bring back Johnny Knoxville.
Yes.
Wait a minute. No. There's no shaking the heads here. If you look at Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville, I'm going to tell you right now, that match was a classic. It wasn't a 1940s, 1950s traditional style classic, but it was a classic by WWE standards. And again, another match that people are going to remember.
I don't think they should go to the well more than once. That's why.
Well, let's get somebody close to that notoriety.
But yeah, your idea though of Pat, that sends the talk through all kinds of sports genres, with Pat McAfee, and so I could see that being the star attraction, not main event type star attraction, but the outside celebrity attraction. I could see them using McAfee for that.
Very true, very true. Well, gentlemen, we've talked about Gunther. We've talked about Logan Paul. We've talked about the idea. And again, thank you, Owen. Somebody who believes, like Luke Roberts is thinking, hashtag bring back Knoxville. That's what we need to have. Let's put it in the chat. Let's put it in the feed tonight. Hashtag bring back Knoxville or Knoxville for WrestleMania. We got to bring it back. That's what it's going to be. But, gentlemen, we got a lot more to talk about here. We've got MLW talk here later tonight as we talk about intimidation games, but we still got more on those randomizer questions. So, gentlemen, if you please, let's hit that randomizer and make sure that we get more questions here tonight on the High Spot segment. And the question is, maybe we should have given a warning with that one there,
we
guys.
We actually already had that one. The randomizer hit the wrong one.
That's all right. That's all right. But as we can see here with the questions that are being popped up here, we're talking about Sammy Guevara, and there are multiple sources here. Give us just a second here. We're going to see what's going on here. Hopefully we can get the question brought up here. And again, thank you to our great media team for making sure this has been taken care of. Here is our question. According to multiple members of the press, Sammy Guevara has been suspended for not following concussion protocol in his match with Jeff Hardy on Rampage. Is this justified? Now, gentlemen, I'm going to tell you right now, as we've got the question here, okay? I am a longtime veteran of professional wrestling. I'm not going to fib to any of the viewers. Anybody that's ever had a chance to talk to me live and in person knows that I am one that is very much, in this day and age, prepared for the idea of dealing with CTE, with dealing with the mental issues that take place with a concussion. However, in a wrestling match, sometimes things happen. Now, I will tell you this much. To me, I look at it right now this way. Does Sammy Guevara potentially need to be reprimanded? Yes. Does he need a talking to? Yes. Does he need a suspension for something that very well could have been out of his control? I don't know. To me, I think right now, even though we're in a world where we got to watch out for things like head injuries and CTE, I think in this case, I think that it I think it was a little too much. And thanks, Sonny Money. Didn't Night Owl say he could see wrestlers using helmets? No, we're not going to go that route. This is professional wrestling, and right now, again, to me, Guevara, should he have been disciplined? Yes, but a suspension, and right now, an undetermined suspension? No, that doesn't fly with me. Um, uh, Gabriel, your thoughts? I was going to go to Haas, but I haven't had a chance really to send the question to you first.
It's no problem. So, honestly, I don't know what to do with Sammy Guevara anymore. It's just, it seems like he's always getting in trouble now, and it just seems like they really need to let him go, rethink what he needs to do, and come back when he's ready to behave, because this is way too many times. Stan Hansen used to follow concussion procedures too.
That one I can't necessarily confirm or deny, but I mean, again, when you look at things here too, though, I mean, Sammy Guevara is a great in-ring competitor, former, I believe, 3-time TNT champion. But I can agree with you to a point there in the idea of where's the line. I mean, when you look at things like the WWE wellness policy, third strike, you're gone. And again, it's one of those where AEW, 4+ years, and AEW, I honestly think you've gotten to a point, and I can agree with you in the fact that Sammy Guevara needs a very stern wake-up call. But I don't think a suspension is there, and by the same token, I don't think that a termination is there as of this point. Because we said before, wrestling is a contact sport. Things happen. And Owen, I think that was the case. But again, the question, and I'm not going to fib, I watch a lot of wrestling, but I haven't seen the incident in question. But there are times when you don't necessarily know if it's a concussion or you just got your bell rung. And again, with Jeff Hardy's been through this dozens of times before. I mean, we've seen him do many things that have led to situations like this. I'm going to tell you right now, to me, I don't know what the referee's view would have been. But again, there needed to be something done. But how far do we go? Hoss, your thoughts?
You know, I'm not sure how to feel about it because, in all honesty, I do believe that if you're suspected of having a concussion, concussions are taken very seriously nowadays, as they should be. And so, if you're suspected of concussion, you need to go into protocol. You need to be checked out. If the ref suspects that you could have uh, sustained a concussion, yeah, he probably should stop the match. But on the same note, you know, look at football nowadays. Football, they have an independent observer watching the game, and if you take any type of hit that independent observer doesn't like, they can call down and say this player must come out and be checked for concussion. You're in a contact sport. Stuff is going to happen. I can't completely see something of that nature just because that's what happens in the sport. You get hit, and just because you don't like the way it looks doesn't necessarily mean they should stop everything that's happening. So it's something that they have to be very careful of, or if refs go stopping matches willy nilly just because they didn't like the way somebody landed, or hey, this could cause a concussion, but doesn't see a lot of other signs with it, then it could ruin the whole sport. But
One thing
if it
I
is
got,
there,
I got to throw one out here too, Haas. And again, you're bringing up a very valid point in the idea of where if you look at like professional boxing, for example, you look at MMA. The boxers, I mean, usually if the referee can tell that they're unsteady on their feet, they can tell that as the old metaphor says, the lights are on but nobody's home. They can stop said match. And Sonny Money brings up a great point. He says, could we see a point in the future where the doctor at the athletic commission steps in and stops the match? Now, to give you an idea, and again, maybe this is because I'm old, maybe it's because I've got a lot of experience in the world of professional wrestling. But there are some athletic commissions that have stepped in and stopped matches, not necessarily for the concussion protocol, but I remember back in I believe it was the late 80s, early 90s, the Chicago Athletic Commission, if you go back to Super Clash 3, and you go back to the idea of Kerry Von Erich versus Jerry Lawler to unify the AWA and WCCW tag team or heavyweight championships. Kerry Von Erich had a nasty cut over his eye. Referee thought for his safety to make sure he kept his vision. He called for the bell. I remember watching, it was a Great American Bash. Lex Luger had Ric Flair up in the torture rack. Maryland State Athletic Commission officials seized the blood coming out of Lex Luger's head under the Athletic Commission code. There you go. And again, Sonny Money bringing in a very good point. There's been storyline that way, but this is, and again, you brought this up, Hoss. This was something that took place in the late 90s. We're now 25 years later. We're much more educated in the world of things like CTE. And Sonny Money, thank you for sharing your comment. That's one of the great things about all the viewers of the Wrestle Talk podcast. They give us all points. We try to bring them all up. We can't guarantee we're going to hit them all. And Sonny Money brings up a great point. But the times, they are a-changing. And in this case here, it's a very slippery slope to figure out what is going to happen. But right now, one thing I think we're all kind of in agreement here is maybe it got taken a little too far, but you got to err on the side of caution. I mean, that's just the way it is. And we have to kind of deal with it. Hopefully, Sammy Guevara gets back soon. Again, great in-ring competitor, and we'll see what happens. Now, at this point, gentlemen, we got time here real quick. Let's go ahead and throw one more high spots question up here. We're going to be talking about MLW intimidation games here in just a few moments. So let's go ahead and throw one more randomizer question up here.
all right, let's go ahead and hit that randomizer.
All right, our final question of the evening. WrestleMania? Well, we know WrestleMania is in a little less than a month away. I mean, that's what's there. Hardcore Hoss, I'm going to ask you right now. I'm not seeing the question here. Hold on one second here. Wait a minute. I think I just found the question in the randomizer. What are your thoughts on the leaked WrestleMania 40 card? And just to give you a shout out here, I told you, Night Owl, we thought we had the randomizer fixed, and now it's sending different messages. We will get this done and dealt with. Now, here's my idea. Real simple. And I'm gonna be brief. It's a ruse, ladies and gentlemen. We need, and I've talked, and again, I know Sonny Money's going to put something up here in 12 seconds, so give me a second to talk, and then I'll make sure it's there. When it comes down to it, we still need the spectacle, the suspension of disbelief of WrestleMania. We don't need to know every little detail. That's why we are professional wrestling fans. We already know some of the matches. That's great and wonderful. But we need that moment. We need to be able to see the WrestleMania moment, the WrestleMania experience. And I think right now, thank you, Sonny. Thank you for agreeing with this wise man known as Luke Roberts. Don't believe it. Don't believe the hype. It's not true. It's not going to be true. And right now, as it stands, the leaked 40 card, the leaked WrestleMania 40 card is basically saying, guess what? We're going to trick you yet again. Hardcore Hoss, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the leaked card is basically just clickbait. You know, they're looking for people to bring eyes to their site, to their page, so they put stuff out there like that, so people will flock to their page and look at it. And I don't think it's true. I mean, WWE has a tight lock on their stuff. And if someone was to leak something like that, they're going to be fired. And if they can't figure out who did it, then anybody who had access to it is probably going to be fired. So I don't foresee somebody risking their future to leak this on the internet. I just don't see it happening.
I totally can see that. Mr. Champion, I guess we should refer that to you now as you're sitting there with the FWWC piece of hardware over your shoulder there. Your thoughts, leaked WrestleMania 40 card. Is it real or is it a mirage?
I'm going to be honest. I think there's some truth to it, and I think there's a little bit of BS to it. Only because some of it fits and some of it doesn't. And a lot of it I just want to be true. You think WWE has every single thing finalized for Mania? No, but that's exactly my point, is that I think some of it makes sense and it's just falling into place right now, while the rest of it is them experimenting and seeing what happens. Because I actually have it right here on my phone. And we can confirm some of these, right? Like Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch is happening.
That is true. That is true, Gabe.
But yeah, and they have to put some truth into it. Otherwise, you're going to look at it and go, "That's not who they're facing," you know, and know that it's fake and call them out on it. So they have to have some truth in there, so that
it says Conor McGregor host. I think that's a hoax.
Well, you know something, guys? I'm going to throw it out here. We've talked about WrestleMania 40. We've talked about these leaks. We've talked about things like that. And I'm going to throw it to you right now. We got one more person that we need to bring in here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and before we get here, we might have Shane come back and get his revenge on Snoop Dogg. That's one of those we could see. But you know what we're going to see right now? And I'm going to change this a little bit. We're not going to see. We're going to hear the theme music of our last commentator, our last guest, when it comes to this topic about leaked WrestleMania 40 information. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hit that music.
What's up, gentlemen?
All right.
Perry,
Big Daddy
here to talk
P.
some sense into these co-hosts of mine. Because you
I'll
got
tell you what, man,
admit,
we're talking
there's some truth to this leak, man. You got to, because listen to some of these, it fills so many gaps. Just hear me out on some of these. Okay? Because you guys heard of they say that they're going to do a ladder match for the U.S. title. And I got a bunch of names here. I got Kevin Owens. I got AJ Styles. I got LA Knight. I got Bobby Lashley. And I got Karrion Kross in a ladder match for the United States Championship. I need all of your opinions on this.
Well, I definitely know Karrion Kross ain't going to do it. I can almost guarantee that one. But I don't even know if Logan's ready to lose the U.S. title yet.
That is true, Big Daddy P.
Because he had an opportunity at Elimination Chamber, which he did very good at. I don't think he's world champion material yet. He'll get there eventually. He's still too new. What were you said? AJ Styles. Well, isn't the you guys got to remember, we're how many days away? A month? 40?
A little more than a month, yes.
Okay. They haven't even begun to get into the good stories yet. I mean, think about how many Raws do we have left? 4? 4 Raws, 4 SmackDowns?
Sounds right.
Look at what's happened in the last 4.
That's about 5 hours of content per week. That's a lot.
I mean, there's a lot of opportunity that can open up.
And then we form Voltron.
They're still going to have the Andre Battle Royal, right?
Hope so.
I'm unsure. I think that might be.
So, I mean, and they've only released one name for the Hall of Fame, with the possibility of Haku as the second one. But I haven't heard about anything else, and we're not going to for another week because they drip it. So whatever's being leaked now is a BS leak.
You know something? Thank you, Big Daddy P, for making an agreement with other members of this Wrestle Talk podcast team. And again, we're not going to put you down, good sir. We're going to have an opportunity. Who knows? In 3 weeks, we might be talking everything that you said. But right now, I think we're all in agreement that no, it's not going to happen. So turning back to Big Daddy P. Now, Big Daddy P. Well, okay, we see how it is. Big Daddy P, now that we've talked WrestleMania 40, let's talk life. Let's talk about how you've been doing. I mean, again, right now you've got a lot of things going on as of late. For those that haven't had a chance to see you in the last few days, what you've been up to?
Well, I just got done my daughter had a performance at school. Ran into an old pro wrestling friend of mine who said he got in a car accident and got a bunch of money and he's starting a new promotion. So he needs Big Daddy P to do some ring announcing and some promotion. So I'm excited about that because we haven't had a show at Blue Sky Wrestling or at Action Sports Wrestling for almost a year now. It's just been kind of dead because my theory is if they lose the money at the door to pay the boys, I always have all the money ahead of time so that if I get one person or 300, everybody gets paid. They always know you work a show with Big Daddy P, you get paid. That's what the P stands for, paid. Very important to work. So that was really great news. I was really excited too because I knew I was coming on. I was like, I can't wait to share that news because I've been talking in past tense about what wrestling has been for me on the independent level. So it's great that there's a new promotion, and it looks like we're going to have Rhino, Matt and Jeff Hardy, and Enzo. Enzo's always a given in Tennessee. They love Enzo. And he is just, and a lot of people don't know, but he has changed so much. I mean, his heart has softened from all the abuse that he's taken and all the junk that he's been through. He's probably one of the sweetest guys I've ever spent time with. Just so nice. So really looking forward to that. But that's the big news today. Outside of that, Mrs. Hartman is beautiful and fabulous as ever. And, God is faithful, man. He knows. And even in the midst of all the crazy, like, I don't know, man, there's some pretty good news going on today. Obviously, Trump has taken the field on Super Tuesday, clearly by almost 70 points, 60 points in most of them. So I'm kind of excited about that. I can't wait to make America great again. I'm sure there are people who don't like him on here, but that's okay because I want to get this government back under control and not so crazy. There's so many crazy things going on right now. And all these states that are getting infiltrated, which the whole United States is nothing but immigrants. We're all not from here, unless you were born here. But even my parents were from here, but their parents were not. So in the end, there's just so many crazy things going on. And, there's a lot of hurting people, a lot of prayer requests over the last couple of days with some dear friends. Obviously, we lost Virgil, right?
Mm-hmm. Virgil and Ole Anderson as well.
Ole Anderson. So again, there's I hate to brag about how wonderful the Lord is, but he truly is. That even in the midst of and we've all had a really rough couple years. You know, each one of us has shared our stories on what we've been through. But I'm always reminded that if God is gracious enough to wake us up, that means he has a plan. So as long as he has a plan, I know I'm a part of it. And it usually has to do with somebody else. So how's everybody else been?
Well, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, and Big Daddy P, talk about we've had a lot of struggles, a lot of trials as of late. I want to share a story, and I think I've told Gabriel a little bit about it, but I don't think I've got a chance to talk to Hardcore Hoss. This past weekend, I had an opportunity that never in a million years would I have expected. As you know, I've been around pro wrestling a long time. I've got a lot of other business ventures that I am a part of. And I had an opportunity this past weekend to attend a conference in one of my favorite towns in the world. Bear with me. A little bit of a plug for those wonderful Chicago Cubs. I'll throw that out there. But I had an opportunity to talk with some individuals from not only across the country, but across North America. And you were talking about things earlier on, Big Daddy P. You're talking about the presidential election. You're talking about how our government, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, there's a lot of things that are coming forward, a lot of things that are going to have to be answered in the next few months.
Even Democrats are complaining about it. So when you're watching CNN or MSNBC and they're saying enough, you know that there's a change. There has to be.
And that is very much true. But I had the opportunity this past weekend to be at a conference in downtown Chicago with some great and good people from all across North America. And it made me realize that for years, and again, I know the Wrestle Talk family has known me as a man who's very outspoken, who's very tell you how it is. Many people said I've had a lot of history, a lot of knowledge. But even I get down on myself sometimes. And this past weekend, it really gave me an opportunity to see things from a different perspective with the eyes wide open. And I'm going to tell you, if last weekend was any indication, 2024 is going to be one of the greatest years in my professional life. And again, I want to say thank you to all those that have supported me inside and outside of the ring, my family, my Wrestle Talk family, all of my great broadcast colleagues, yourself, the CEO, among others, even those that don't join us on a regular basis, like Nightmare Jones, a lot of people who've been behind me, and having the opportunity to be where I am right now. I mean, it really made me feel good. It felt like finally being able to take that step back in the right direction. And again, it warmed my heart. And again, we've had a lot of negatives, but for once, I felt very fortunate. There was a positive that had come forward to me, and I'm very thankful for that.
I got a message from Susie, by the way. I think 3-4 days ago, there was some great news. She shared a wonderful testimony, and I was so glad that she shared it with me because her timing was perfect on it. So again, there's one, God is doing some great things, but there are those out there that God is still doing great things for. They just haven't seen it yet. You know, they're waiting. And I have a friend of mine who just met about 2 years ago, the love of her life, and they ended up having a baby. And she said, God doesn't want to hear my prayers. He doesn't care. And I had to remind her, man, you've got a spouse now. You've got a baby. I said, these are wonderful blessings. And I think she just didn't realize, she didn't see it as that until I pointed it out. So maybe tonight's Snippets of Truth, which we did finally clarify after 6 years, that Snippets of Truth is a snippet of truth. It's not a prayer, because prayer is prayer. But it's important to leave a breadcrumb, because you never know who's listening. You don't know. And you don't know where people are at. People could be smiling and really, but they're freaking miserable. And they have no peace and they have no joy. So I just wanted to remind who's listening tonight that when it talks about the fruits of the Spirit, think now that's peace, joy, loving kindness, long suffering, self-control, but all of these, a fruit, if you bite into an apple or an orange too early, what happens?
Spit it out.
It's nasty. But when you're on a good Florida orange or whatever fruits you like, and you bite into it, and it's like a mango that's juicy and great. A fruit takes time. Peace and joy take time. If you don't know where you're going, if you have a GPS and you set it, like you remember when GPSs first came out? You remember when you first used it? Chances are the first time you used it, you got lost. It just wasn't really there. So you didn't know where you were going. So you lacked peace. Well, the God positioning system works the same way. If you don't know where you're going, you don't have peace because you're always worried when you're going to be hellbound, when you might not even be hellbound. You could be heaven bound and not even know it. So I just want to encourage you today that some things take time. If you're waiting for the most amazing thing to happen in your life and it hasn't happened yet, don't think it's not going to, because it just might. You just have to be patient and don't stop asking him. He's waiting to hear from us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for anything. And the one truth in all this is that if you're worrying, you're showing God that you don't trust him. And that's okay, because he'll give you a chance to watch and see what he can do. For thousands of years, men have tried with money and everything they can to buy happiness and to find happiness. Happiness isn't in money. Certainly happiness isn't in poverty either. I mean, if you've ever been behind like I have, it's tough. But he always comes through. So take your age, whatever your age is, and multiply it by 365. And that's how many days he's made provision for you. You think he's going to stop now? Absolutely not. Come for the what did that say? Put that back up. I missed it because I was come for the snippet. Stay for the prayers.
Gotta tell you right now, Big Daddy P.
I'm just
the night owl comes in at the perfect time.
Very quickly, everybody excited about Paul Heyman?
I agree. You know, I gotta say right now, Big Daddy P, the Paul Heyman induction really has kind of torn my family apart a little bit. For those that are members of the Wrestle Talk family, you know that I'm a huge wrestling fan. I've been around wrestling a long time. Personally, I don't know if this is the right time. My nephew, a man traveling the world, as everybody knows, Ivar the Micro, is already having a huge celebration party the day it's announced.
Well, what does it tell you? What does it tell you? Think about some of the inductees. It almost seems like every year one of the inductees died already, right? And so he never got it. So his family has to come to represent. I'm wondering if Paul Heyman might have some health issues, possibly. And so they want to get it out of the way. Or maybe he's going to retire. I mean, I hate the traveling, as much traveling as he's doing now, he might want to just take a break. So maybe that's why they're doing it. But in the end, I always look forward to it. I look forward to WrestleMania week. I'm really excited that we have as many pay-per-views as we do. A lot of good wrestling content. And all of you wrestlers out there who think that they want to do what Sting's partner,
Darby Allin?
Yeah. What the hell? I mean, he's not Mick Foley. But anyway, it was for shock. I get it. But there are certain things you just don't want to do to your body. Paul's the GOAT. Yeah, he is. I think if you compare Paul Heyman to Bobby Heenan, and if you count how many people Bobby Heenan has represented and how many people Paul Heyman has represented, I think it's pretty close.
My view is simple. I'm going to level this way. Night Owl, you can say all you want about Paul Heyman, but we're talking about the best in professional wrestling history. You got to go with the brain. It's as simple as that. So we're going to go ahead. Ooh, I'm not even going to start on this one.
No, not even
we're not,
close.
Yeah, we're not going to have this discussion. That's going to be a whole nother episode. Big Daddy P and the Night Owl and Wrestling Theology 101 right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. That's what's going to happen. But you know something, guys? Before we let Big Daddy P go here, and Big Daddy, we're going to have you share a moment here. I want to give a couple things here. Number one, want to give a shout out. And it's been through messages in the last couple days. I do know that our broadcast colleague Chris Rodell is going through a lot. He actually was planning on joining us this evening, but unfortunately he had a death, and not in the immediate family, but extremely close. And I know that that's been kind of weighing on him today. I know that there's a couple people who have said that things are not going the way they should at work. I got a lot of stress going on there. I'm a level with it. I'm not going to put the breaking news sounder, but there's a couple of major things that could be looming on the horizon as we get closer and closer to episode 500. A couple of major things that are going to take the Wrestle Talk podcast to a level that no one will expect. Right now, I mean, there's a lot of things that we've got going on here within our own Wrestle Talk podcast family that are there. Hardcore Hoss, Gabe, have you guys had any more prayer requests or anything that's kind of popped up here as of late regarding Big Daddy P before we give him a chance to have the floor?
One thing I wanted to ask is there's a gentleman in my church family that his girlfriend's stepdaughter actually had a tumor removed from her brain, and it turned out to be cancerous, and they actually gave her very short time to live if she doesn't take treatments. If she does take treatments, which she's planning on right now, they give her a maximum of 2 years. He actually flew out, him and his girlfriend flew out to see her and be with her for a little bit the other week. And now they're back home, and his girlfriend came down with strep throat, flu, and COVID, and he has now come down with COVID. So I definitely want to keep them in prayer because their stress level and the mental anxiety they're going through, and now the physical ailments they have to top it off. So definitely want to include them in prayer. And at the same time, anybody who real quick, kind of personal plug, I guess. Anybody who needs prayer at any time, there's so much negative around on Facebook. I actually went out and started a prayer page on Facebook called Prayer Warriors. So anybody
which actually Susie sent me a link to it, so I joined it because it's great.
So yeah, anybody who needs prayer at any time, feel free to go to the Prayer Warriors page and post a prayer there. And there's plenty of people who will be willing to, pray over your prayer requests there. So, but yeah, so just wanted to throw that out there.
All right. Well, like I said, I think we've covered a large amount of things here. We're going to go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, to turn it over to the man who has the time each and every week.
He didn't get a chance.
Gabriel's sitting there all comfy. He's ready to rock and roll.
He was going to go to sleep for a second.
You want to add anything, Gabe?
Not really.
Okay. All right. We actually had one more come in here. Hold on 1 second here. We're going to throw it up here. Big Daddy P.
Just a prayer request on behalf of my opponent at Universe Meeting 10. Mobile is set to get his head kicked in by one Gabriel RC.
And then I have a question for each one of you, and then I'll pray. Hoss, if God could do one thing for you, what would it be? I'm not talking about other people and their prayers. I'm talking about you, sir.
Honestly, probably the one thing I would ask God to do is heal my family.
Okay. See, again, he doesn't think about himself. He's thinking about other people. Gabe, got anything for you that you need?
I mean, I don't really have anything specific. I mean, I just kind of leave it out there, if that makes sense.
He knows. I don't know. Luke?
I gotta tell you right now, mine is kind of a lot like what Hoss was talking about in this crazy time, is making sure that when it comes down to it, he consistently, as we hear all the time, he continues to have our back each and every day.
And mine is for you guys, that he continues to grow the show, that he continues to bring in guests who will tell other people about the show, so that you can continue to do what you enjoy to do so much, and that's talk about professional wrestling. Ready to pray?
I'm ready if you're ready, Big Daddy P. The floor is yours, good sir.
Our Heavenly Father, we can never thank you enough for all the goodness and grace that you continue to pour into our lives each and every day. You've heard each and every one of these requests, Father, as well as those that weren't said audibly, but there were thoughts and you knew them. We thank you that we can come to you. We know we don't get a busy signal. We don't get a voicemail. You're always ready to hear us. I want to thank you for the praise reports that we've received of all the prayers that you've already answered. And now we come to you with all of these prayers, especially those who are dealing with cancer, sickness, financial issues, physical issues. Father, we pray for all the professional wrestlers out there who are injured, that you would continue to heal their bodies, that you would continue to protect those that aren't innocent. We know sometimes you allow things to happen to wake us up to a new situation. So I want to pray for patience for those that haven't gone through those testings yet, that they would know that you're there for them and that you're always faithful. And no matter what we see on the world, we recognize and know that you've overcome the world and that you've left us here tonight to glorify you through the form of worship and prayer, in thanksgiving, attitudes of gratitude. We look forward to WrestleMania. We look forward to these events that are coming up, knowing that we get so much pleasure out of them. And so we're just thankful, not only that you exist, not only that you're listening, not only that you're going to do all the things that we ask according to your will, but I'm thankful that I can come here and talk about your goodness and grace, hoping that just one person tonight who might have been discouraged is now encouraged. I thank you so much, and I love you, and I ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Big Daddy P, bringing us those snippets of truth each and every week. And Big Daddy P, I'm going to ask you a question. You're a Tennessean by current residence, correct?
Yep, almost 20 years.
Well, you know what we're going to do right now, and I'm going to throw it out here, and it's going to give a shout out here. In mid-May, if you haven't gotten an opportunity yet, Fan Fest 2 is going to be held right here in St. Louis, middle of the month of May, brought to you by the great folks at SICW, bringing in a lot of pro wrestlers. They're going to be having a lot of special guests. They're going to have the likes of, Jerry Briscoe, JBL, Bill Apter, The Godfather. I could go on for the rest of the show talking about it. I think we need to get Big Daddy P to make a journey from Tennessee up here to St. Louis. And I'm going to level with you. I think in my summer plans, as busy as they are, I think there's going to be an opportunity to be heading down Tennessee way. So I'm going to tell you right now, we need to get this done. Like you said, the Wrestle Talk podcast, traveling the globe to bring the best in professional wrestling. And if we're talking the best, we're talking Big Daddy P each and every week. Big Daddy, it's always a privilege. And I look forward to having you back here next week on the Wrestle Talk podcast.
God willing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Big Daddy P here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. We're going to be talking here in just a minute about all things MLW. That's right. We talk about AEW, we talk about Impact, we talk about Ring of Honor, we talk about New Japan. But tonight in the second hour, we're going to be talking all things MLW here on the program. And before we get too much farther along, we're going to throw one more thing out here. And all my time on the program, I don't think that Hardcore Hoss has done the second hour sponsor thank yous. But you know something? Before we get to that, we have one last thing we got to do that we do each and every week besides taking care of what's that. And we have to remember, if we're going to thank our sponsors,
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
we have to make sure that we thank our great promotional sponsors. So, Hardcore Hoss, if you be so kind.
Oh, as always, we want to thank all of our great sponsors: Royal Mills Transportation, the one and only Dewan Mills, Nobleman's Barber Lounge, KCMO, Ask for Pete the Barber, Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall, Interstate 70 Sports Media, Jeremy Carp and the guys over there, Little Popeye's Designs, where you get your Wrestle Talk podcast tumbler. If you don't have one, hit one of us up. We'll be glad to hook you up. And the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group.
All right. Well, again, we want to thank our great sponsors who help bring the Wrestle Talk podcast to us each and every week. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead here. We're going to change things up a little bit. Usually we have interviews in the second hour, but tonight is a little bit different. Tonight is a special episode of the Wrestle Talk podcast. And the reason why we talk about that is because we're going to be talking about all things MLW. And a matter of fact, I want to give a shout out here before we get started to our great friend Sean Graben over at MLW, without whom a lot of these things with MLW would not have been taking place. And what we're going to do here, Hardcore Hoss, I know that you're going to be taking care of some technical things behind the scenes, but I want to real quick throw up here on the screen, as you see right now, we're talking Intimidation Games. We're talking about the event that happened on Thursday of last week, February 29th in New York City. A lot of great things taking place in New York City. They also had a TV taping for their program. I believe it's Fusion that's going to be taking place in the weeks to come. And Gabriel, I'm going to tell you right now, we got a lot of great things here to talk about tonight. We're talking about MLW. And I'm going to go ahead here real quick because we got things taken care of. I'm going to go ahead and throw this up here and see if we can make this work. I think we got it all set and ready to go. Let's make sure we can get this first one up here. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. We're going to see what happens here right now. And as we see right here, from the beginning of Intimidation Games, we had Mystico taking on the MLW World Middleweight Champion, Rocky Romero. Now, I got to tell you this much, Gabe. This was a matchup that, from the announcement of it, intrigued me. You've got Mystico, one of the greatest luchadors presently in the history of Lucha Libre, taking on a man who's been all around the world. I know a lot more about Mystico. Can you share with the viewers of the Wrestle Talk podcast a little bit more about what you know about Rocky Romero?
Well, as far as I know, he has done a lot of dates in New Japan, if I'm remembering correctly. He was in Roppongi Vice, wasn't he?
Roppongi Vice, he was the, I guess you would say, the manager or the second or the advisor of Roppongi 3K.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of things. Right now, AEW is a part of the Best Friends organization.
That's correct. And then he was also in AAA at some point, I believe, wasn't he?
I believe you're correct on that as well. Now, when you have the world middleweight, yeah, that's quite a portfolio. And you know something else that's there too. I mean, not only did you have a great matchup between two well-known, well-respected high flyers that could wrestle on the mat as well, but you also got to look at the wild cards in here. You had Jesus Rodriguez. Some know him as Ricardo Rodriguez when he was in the WWE. And I'm going to make sure I'm going to look here at my notes. Selena De La Renta. I want to make sure I don't mess it up. She's been on the program. I don't want to be at her wrath. Came out with Rocky Romero. You had Cesar Duran. Most of you know him from Lucha Underground fame. this matchup, to me, it delivered. And again, as we look at things here, Super Kick, Destroyer, La Mystica, Rocky Romero doesn't have a choice. He has to tap out. Championship changes hands. But to me, the biggest thing didn't happen in the ring. It was a great match. And I'm going to give you a chance here in a minute, Gabe, to talk about your thoughts of that opening contest. But now the stage is set. Don't necessarily know where or when, but the mass of Mystico versus the hair of Azuka Rocky Romero. My thoughts to you, Gabe. What did you think about this opening match? And what do you think about what happened after the matchup?
The match itself, I mean, I like to use the phrase, it's a good lucha thing, because it was a very, very classic bout. And just the change of the title was a great way to open the actual pay-per-view. And now that we get the rematch with an even more lucha stakes, like I don't want to use that word over and over, but it's only because it's textbook. Mystico, Rocky Romero, they're giving us something fantastic here in MLW. I find that if you're a AAA or CMLL fan, you'll be having your itch scratched here.
I agree with you, and you said it's a good lucha thing. I got to tell you, I thought it was a great lucha thing. Great matchup, lots of moves, lots of great wrestling action, and I agree with you 100%. A great way to start MLW's Intimidation Games. Now let's move on to our second matchup, a New York City street fight. We're going to pull up the graphic here right now. Hopefully our technology is going to cooperate for us. We have The Calling taking on Akira and Jake Crist. Now, to give you an idea, and I'm going to level with the viewers of the Wrestle Talk podcast. We have had Jake Crist and Akira both on the program. They are members of the Wrestle Talk family.
No bias.
Oh, exactly. No bias whatsoever. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you're in a street fight matchup and you're standing across the ring from someone the likes of Ricky Shane Page and Sami Callihan, you got to be ready for a war. And there are a lot of intangibles in this match before it even gets started. Akira, I do believe, has some history with Ricky Shane Page. If you look at the Ohio is for Killers faction, Sami Callihan, Jake Crist. You got a lot of little pieces, interworking pieces in this match. You combine it with a large degree of violence. I mean, it wasn't a GCW. It wasn't an IWA.
I'd argue it was a cartoonish level of violence.
Okay, for those that don't understand that, Gabriel, explain what you mean by that.
It just insane enough. Like the best example I can think of, you've seen episodes of Family Guy where Peter's fighting the giant chicken, and they're just stumbling through buildings, and it just it's insane to think that human beings can do that much damage to each other, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If I can put it in the best way possible.
Well, you know something, Gabe? I want to look at this too. And again, this is going to sound weird. With all of the violence, with all of the beatings that took place in this matchup, the end of the match totally threw me for a loop. A kick below the belt and a backslide. A kick low and a backslide ends a match with these four men. You would never in a million years expect that. Let alone the idea of all people, Sami Callihan pulling off a backslide for a victory. That to me, I mean, again, the gratuitous level of violence and then that leading to it. But then I'm going to level with you. I am a very big fan of those wrestlers that can draw you in. They make their statement. They use their words. They draw you in. Guys like the Assassins. Guys like Jake the Snake Roberts. And at the end of the match, we get an appearance by Raven. I got to tell you, I got goosebumps. It's not because Raven's in the best of shape. Raven's seen better days. But Raven is one of those individuals. You don't know how his mind works. I don't think anybody knows how Raven's mind works. And if he's going out there and he's wanting the idea of starting a war, you're going to stand up and take notice. Because people that associate with Raven are going to do everything they can. And I'm going to tell you right now, MLW, you better get ready, because if they're bringing a war, that's not a guy that you want to be across from on the battlefield. I'll tell you that much. Moving right along here. They have their gratuitous moments of promos. One that makes me feel really good. Timothy Thatcher coming back at War Chamber. I think that's a very good fit. Timothy Thatcher's a great wrestler.
I wanted to mention this. Matt Riddle's in the same company. You know, originally the Broserweights. Pete Dunne got hurt. Who did he pick? Timothy Thatcher. There's some history there. Maybe they got to shake the ring rust off, but MLW Tag Team Contenders.
Ooh, that would be a very interesting combination there, Gabe. Speaking of an interesting thing, we also got to see the team of Tom Lawler and Davey Boy Smith Jr. Some call him Harry Smith, but the point is these two men went out there and basically the idea of, based on what's there, they're a part of the, I think it's the World Titan Federation, the WTF in MLW.
I'm a big fan of their work.
Basically saying tap or snap. And I'm going to tell you right now, those are two guys I would not want to cross. Power, finesse, technique. They're two bad dudes. We're going to talk about them a little bit later on here. And again, if you had an opportunity to watch MLW Intimidation Games, or if you're one of those that would like to talk anything about this event, please make sure to send us messages in the chat. We would love to hear your thoughts about what had taken place this past Thursday. Again, myself, Gabriel, the Night Owl. Again, shout out to the great folks at MLW Media for allowing us the opportunity to take part in MLW's Intimidation Games. And again, really great experience. Now, the next match we talk about is a match that, again, there is no bias, but you have the returning Bobby Fish taking on member of the Wrestle Talk podcast family from the, and again, I always mess this up, the Boomaye Fight Club, Alex Kane. This match here really intrigued me. Hold on. You're pulling a Luke Roberts here, Gabriel. You got to turn on your microphone to make this work. If you're going to cheer, you got to turn it on.
Boomaye, Boomaye, Boomaye. This dude, I'm obsessed with him. I'm just, oh man, you want to talk about a clashing of styles. This is such a different kind of matchup, but he's got a huge Taz vibe, but if he was bigger and scarier, it's like Big E and Taz in a blender. It's the best way I can describe him, and I love him. Alex Kane.
Well, Gabriel, I want to throw this up here real quick. We had talked about the graphics and whatnot. Take a look at this for the folks of the Wrestle Talk podcast. Take a look at this graphic. Bobby Fish looks like one of those individuals that could tie you into a knot. And Alex Kane looks like one of those individuals that, like you said, like Taz, he could probably suplex you into next week. He could probably take both of your arms and both of your legs and hurt you with them at the same time. I mean, really just a phenomenal wrestler. And again, it's technical versus technical, but a power technical versus a finesse technical. And I'm going to tell you right now, great matchup. I mean, from top to bottom, Bobby Fish, basically everybody knows how Bobby Fish brings things to the table. Alex Kane, same situation. In the end, Bobby Fish basically is locked up in a submission move. He's hooked up in the fade to black, can't escape. And again, with somebody the size of Alex Kane, if he hooks you in a move, it's a submission move, you got problems, and you got problems very, very quickly. Referee has no choice. Alex Kane victorious. And here's one to me
Welcome back
that
to MLW.
that is true. But one thing this is one thing I don't normally get bothered in pro wrestling, but I'm gonna tell you right now, out of nowhere, great matchup. Like Bobby Fish in the ring, really start to dig on Alex Kane. After a great matchup between two world-class athletes, AJ Francis comes out and starts talking trash. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what he's thinking. I think a lot of people don't know what AJ Francis is thinking. But I'm going to tell you right now, and Gabriel, I'm going to throw this to you here in just a second as well. AJ Francis is picking a fight with the wrong guy. And I want to get your thoughts here, not only about the match, but the idea of AJ Francis coming in and starting to kind of ruffle up the Boomaye Fight Club.
I'm gonna keep this simple. I know we shouldn't be biased here in the Wrestle Talk podcast, but Alex Kane is our familia here, and I'm gonna say what this man is probably thinking. Why you being a hoe? That's it. I'm gonna keep it that simple. It's just he chokes you choke out Bobby Fish, and you're picking a fight with this guy. I'm just asking you this, Luke Roberts. What do you think's gonna happen?
I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm just going to level with you. If I was anybody having to stand across the ring from Alex Kane, my advice to you, run.
That is right
The
up there
late
with headbutting bullets.
that will I was figuring headbutting a concrete wall or picking a fight. I mean, it's not a good thing. But again, only time will tell. I mean, again, Alex Kane with the victory over Bobby Fish, great technical matchup. And again, for those that love technical wrestling, make it a point. Go online, Triller TV. You can download it. I believe I don't remember the cost off the top of my head, but you can get the opportunity to download the
I
event.
believe it's
Great.
$7.99.
Yeah, great matchup. What? We want to repeat that, Gabriel?
I believe it's $7.99 for a week, and then it's $69.99 for a year. So if you get the money, go for it. They got a lot of content. I recommend it. They don't just have MLW. I believe they have House of Glory. They have AEW Revolution, I think.
They've got a lot of great events there. Make it a point, and I believe too, Triller TV, I believe, is an offshoot of Fight TV as well. So I mean, again, a lot of great things you could pull from there as well. Now, the next matchup we had MLW Tag Team Championships. The World Titan Federation, let me try one more time. The World Titan Federation. Now I know that I'm going to get some mail from members of this organization basically being upset with me because I messed up the name.
Come on,
Taking
man.
on the
Make us
second
look bad.
year. That is, I gotta admit, I'll take that one there. Going against the Second Gear crew. Now, I'm gonna tell you right now, the Second Gear crew has begun to grow on me. A lot of people don't necessarily like them because they don't see them as a team with a lot of merit. But to win the MLW Tag Team Championships is no small feat. And they're taking on Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Filthy Tom Lawler. I got to throw this to you, Gabe. We talked earlier about the WTF, the World Titan Federation. How does this matchup look to you on paper?
Well, the match I was able to catch of the Second Gear crew, they're such a throwback to me. They just feel like a classic team. I don't mean to make the immediate comparison to FTR, but they got that vibe, that old working man, almost a Memphis vibe to it, if that fits. But with WTF, they're the I picture them as the WWF guys, you know, the sports entertainers. They're classic, they're a throwback, and I wonder if that changes their style. I mean, Tom Lawler, former New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong champion, held it for a very record time, taking on people like Yuji Nagata, and that's something to admire, honestly. So to lead that, but also with Davey Boy Smith Jr., just I think it's a wonder that they did win the championships eventually, right?
I agree with you there, Gabriel. Now, going back here, and I do want to bring this up here when we're talking about things, we're talking about the idea of the MLW Tag Team Championships. And right now, to give you an idea, and I'm just going to throw this up here as we look at it, the Second Gear Crew, and again, we're going to kind of jump a little bit ahead. The Second Gear Crew held the championships for, I believe it was 103 days. That's not bad in the world of professional wrestling. But first of all, to become champions, they defeat The Calling, Akira, and Ricky Shane Page. That right there is no small feat. Then they lose their first defense against the Bumaye Fight Club by disqualification. And back on the 6th of January, a little more than a month ago, the Second Gear Crew defeated members of the World Titan Federation in Josh Bishop and Filthy Tom Lawler. So the stage is there. And also shout out here real quick to our good broadcast friend, Herb Simmons. Thank you for joining us here this evening, Herb. Again, as a reminder, if you want to catch professional wrestling, you can catch FanFest 2 to be held in the middle of May. For more information, sicw.org. You can go ahead and pick up that information as well. But going back to what's here, the Second Gear Crew, when you put Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Filthy Tom Lawler together, it's simple and straightforward. You're in for a fight. And I'm going to tell you right now, as we look at things here, I hate to say it, but the writing was on the wall. To me, I don't think there's a lot of teams in MLW that can keep up with the WTF tag team of Davey Boy Smith Jr., former IWGP Tag Team Champion, and you've got multiple-time champion in MLW, that being Filthy Tom Lawler.
Is he actually? I had no idea.
I believe he's held, and actually I'm going to go back here and I'm going to look at this while we're taking care of things here. We're going to go ahead and pull it up. And again, this is one of those, I want to say thank you to our media department for making sure that we have this information up to date as quick as we possibly can so we can get things ready to go here. And to give you an idea, Tom Lawler, as we look here right now at championships that he's held in the course of his career, and again, he was an accomplished MMA fighter as well. You can't necessarily take that away. When you're looking at a former MLW World Heavyweight Champion, going back and looking at things too, former New Japan Strong Openweight Champion. I mean, he does have a pretty good record of things as it relates to championships in professional wrestling. But again, something that really makes me stand up and take notice. The WTF wins the MLW Tag Team Championships. And who shows up but Contra? Contra Unit shows up. Now, this to me leaves me scratching my head going, wait a minute, whoa, whoa, whoa. The WTF, the World Titan Federation, is stepping up. They're causing all sorts of problems for everybody in MLW. And Contra Unit comes back and says that the fight, there's still more fight to come. I'm going to tell you right now, when you look at Contra Unit and you look at Joseph Samael and you look at all these members that have been a part of Contra Unit, I'm going to level with you. You think the idea of Raven declaring war is one thing? Contra Unit being back in MLW is not going to bode well for anybody. And I mean, again, now you don't have one group to look out for. Now you got two groups to look out for. Both of those you don't want to turn your back on because you could wind up in a lot of trouble very, very quickly. Speaking of being in trouble rather quickly, we move on to the New Japan Pro Wrestling World Television Championship match between the King of Bros, Matt Riddle, taking on Bad Dude Tito. Now, I'm going to level with you. I like Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle, to me, just has an aura to him. I like what's there. To me, I really love the opportunity to see Bad Dude Tito. I'm thinking Bad News Brown, not Bad Dude Tito. Point is this. I was expecting this to be a match that would go the full time limit. I expected these two men to just go. And the biggest disappointment to me wasn't the match, because the match was great. I enjoyed the matchup. The total time of the match, 5 minutes, 6 seconds. Bad Dude Tito is a great wrestler. I believe he was a part of TMDK, the Mighty Don't Kneel. To me, I really think in this case, you're in a situation where I think this definitely knocks him down a few notches. Matt Riddle's a great wrestler, but I don't feel as though that Bad Dude Tito is one of those that should have been able to be defeated in 5 minutes. Gabriel, your thoughts?
I kind of want to spin it in the other direction, only because he beat Tanahashi in 8 minutes. And that's kind of a big feat. I mean, Tanahashi's a former how many champions in New Japan? So
True.
To beat Bad Dude Tito, if anything, surviving 5 minutes with Matt Riddle is an honor. That's just me spinning it into a good thing. But I honestly think it's only because I want to see who takes Matt Riddle to a 15-minute time limit draw. Because what's interesting about the ruling in the New Japan the television title is that if there is a 15-minute draw, they have a rematch and add 5 more minutes. So it becomes a 20-minute match.
You know something, Gabriel? I look at it from a perspective right now of where I was surprised that New Japan brought a television championship forward. And I appreciate Matt Riddle being the New Japan television champion. But again, I think we're going to agree to disagree here when it comes to, I mean, again, the match was good. You consider it to be an honor. I look at it from a perspective of it might have been a little bit more of a, I don't want to say a demotion, but something along those lines. Now, the next one, if you thought the last match went a short amount of time, the $5,000 5-minute challenge. You last 5 minutes, you make $5,000. The MLW World Featherweight Championship was not on the line. Janai Kai taking on Zoe Cannon. This match lasted 18 seconds. It starts off with a kick to the chest, a kick in the corner. Cannon is out. I'm going to tell you, I've had an opportunity in countless promotions to see Janai Kai compete. And I'm going to tell you right now here, and I'm going to go ahead here and bring up the graphic just so the fans can see as we're looking at it right here. Let's bring it up here on the screen so people can see exactly what's going on here. Well, maybe. We got to bear with us a second here to see if the technology is going to cooperate. There you go right here. The World Featherweight Champion. Again, when you have Selena De La Renta, you have the World Featherweight Championship. Janai Kai is going to be one of those that the world is starting to really start taking notice of. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more of her in her journey as the world featherweight champion. Your thoughts on Janai Kai?
Absolute monster. it's always interesting to see what a lot of the indie promotions have to offer. Sorry about that. So, what a lot of the indie promotions have to offer when it comes to female talent, and I think Janai Kai is in a league of her own. Because you get lots of there's lots of interesting names that you can pull out of luchadors. CMLL, AAA. There's a lot of Joshi talent that's going around, but Janai Kai is just the stiff strikes. The Muay Thai style almost. I mean, I don't know if that's her actual fighting style, but just have you seen any other kicks as rough as that on a female wrestler in how many years?
I'm gonna tell you right now, Gabriel, I haven't seen anything like that. And Janai Kai definitely brought it to Zoe Cannon. Again, my only thing is I wish Zoe Cannon would have lasted longer, but as you said, Janai Kai definitely.
I don't know that I could have lasted any longer. 18 seconds. I'm like, that's impressive. I would have gotten 3, and that's including the 3 count.
Again, you look at it, and you got to look at it from this perspective too. $5,000 if you can last 5 minutes. I don't think I would take $10,000 or $20,000 because those kicks are lethal. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I've been around pro wrestling a long time. Janai Kai is going places in the world of professional wrestling, and if you haven't had a chance to see any of her matches, make it a point to do so. Speaking of great matches, speaking of people who are going to make an impact, we now talk about the main event. I'm going to throw this one up here right now. Kojima versus Minoru Suzuki. I am going to tell the fans of the Wrestle Talk podcast right now, as it stands, this matchup to me was the one that I was waiting for. I sat back, I was waiting, I watched all this great MLW action, and Kojima and Suzuki did not disappoint. You had 2 men who are known for going out there and laying it all on the line. Kicks, strikes, submission holds, you name it. They left it all on the line. And the end result of the matchup, as we go through it, the end result is Kojima throwing that lariat, getting the victory over Minoru Suzuki. I'm going to tell you, that match to me, if you are a fan of professional wrestling, you need to make it a point to go online, whether it is at MLW.com, TrillerTV.com, or anywhere else that you can get this footage on file, on your smart device, your computer, whatever, your tablet. This matchup was a phenomenal matchup. And Gabriel, I know you're a big fan of both wrestlers. What were your thoughts about this main event of MLW Intimidation Games?
This is like the price of admission for me, Skywalker, because it's like, if you're going to do yourself a favor, watch this match, please, because it's so good. Like, it just, especially because for Kojima and Suzuki, you forget how much veterans these are in the world of wrestling, where it's like they haven't missed a step, but they're very much like, not at the end of their rope, because by all means they can go as long as they need to, but you're just like, damn, they're how old? And they're still, busting out bangers. It's amazing that, like, how these guys have just they're like the fine wine of wrestling. They've only, it's just Kojima's the breadwinner, and I love it. It's my favorite thing in wrestling right now, and Suzuki is always killing it.
Well, to give you an idea, and now you've now got my curiosity here. As we're looking at things here, I wanted to look this up. And as we look at Major League Wrestling, we look at Intimidation Games 2024, and you talk about the idea of the World Heavyweight Championship, and you look at this particular event. To give you an idea, if I'm not mistaken, that's why I want to make sure I can go back here, and we've got the media department working overtime here to make sure we can get things ready to go. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when Kojima won the world championship, I believe they said that Kojima was 51. And I'm going to tell you right now, for a man who's 51 years old, we're going to go ahead and look at this graphic here. Bear with me just a second. I'm going to go ahead and throw it back up here. Hold on one second. Our technology is running a little slow, trying to catch up with all this great wrestling talk that we've had here this evening. If you look at the graphic right here, Kojima looks like he's been through some fights. Minoru Suzuki, they've always said he's, I think, what is it called? The meanest man in professional wrestling.
He's murder grandpa.
Yeah, he's one of those where he's going to go out there and he basically tells you
Don't look him in the eye.
exactly.
Just don't look
Yeah,
him in the
you
eye.
don't. Yeah, you don't want to be across from him, because if you are, you're going to have a very big problem on your hands. And right now, as we're looking at things here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. I now have the information here, and thank you to the great media department here of the Wrestle Talk podcast to pull this up. Kojima is actually, I'm wrong. Kojima, according to what our media team was able to find out, Kojima was 53. Minoru Suzuki is 55. Now, a lot of people are going to sit there and say there's no reason that these two men should have been in the ring against one another. They delivered. They delivered a match that, for an old-time wrestling purist like myself, that I absolutely enjoyed. These two men went out there and they left everything in the ring. The way that two wrestlers should when you're competing for a world heavyweight championship. And I'm going to tell you right now, this matchup, if they could sign this again, I would spend the money to buy the pay-per-view again. I know you and I talked about it off air, Gabriel. MLW is going to be making some stops in the greater Florida area around the Sunshine State here in the next few weeks. And when you're looking at it, if they were going to have Kojima and Suzuki again, I know you'd be one of the first in line to make sure that this was taken care of, because this match, a marquee matchup anywhere on the planet.
I couldn't agree more, Luke. I'm actually trying to make the effort to get out there. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I don't have it written down, unfortunately. But they're going to be out here in Tampa. I think that's about an hour out. And I'm Kojima's main event, and it's going to be a War Games style match. And they got a lot of, I believe it's him, the Second Gear Crew, and his tag team partner from back in the day.
And you're bringing up a very good point here, Gabriel. When you're talking about MLW is making every conscious attempt to deliver great professional wrestling. And we want to once again give a shout out to our good friend Sean Graben over as a part of MLW Media for making sure that we can get things taken care of here with the Wrestle Talk podcast each and every week. And to give you an idea, giving you the opportunity to hear more from the wonderful world of MLW. And again, MLWwrestling.com for all the information. We're going to be talking about War Chamber here in the next few days. And a matter of fact, here we're taking care of a couple
That's the
things.
name of it.
War Chamber is going to be coming up. And again, my understanding is rings enclosed in steel, a great night of professional wrestling. And again, I believe they've already announced the teams. The $64,000 question that I want to throw out there is the idea of what happens. They made it a point to give Kojima a new world championship belt, and he was attacked during the awards presentation. That's one of the big things that's online right now, is they're wondering, how is his knee going to hold up? And that's one of those situations where when you're looking at it, I mean, again, you've got somebody, when you're talking about professional wrestling, if you're in your 50s, you've been through a lot of fights. You've been through a lot of wars. And as you look at things right now, it's a situation that you got to make sure that you're doing what you need to do, but it's going to be a tough thing. And I mean, again, we talked about this before we went on air tonight. What do you think this means for Kojima's team going into War Chamber?
I mean, I shared it on my page earlier. It's it's downright criminal, Luke, just to damage somebody like that. Because like you said, he's in his 50s. That kind of damage at that age could almost criminal or cripple the guy. And I'm sure this is like bad for morale going forward, that they have to compensate, like either Kojima has to enter the match last, and then like they know that they're going to be at a disadvantage. So I'm hoping him a speedy recovery, but hoping he's not like damaged beyond repair going forward. Because I mean, I want to see the man wrestle, but not at the expense of his knee.
That is true. And I mean, again, only time is going to tell what's going to happen as we move forward going towards. And a matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and bring up, for those of you that want to catch more MLW action, you see right here, Friday night, March 29th, the Coliseum in St. Petersburg, Florida. You can catch MLW War Chamber, 7 o'clock bell time. You can catch it on Triller TV. You can catch it on, as you see right there, a lot of great different avenues to take care of things. A great night of professional wrestling. If you're in the St. Petersburg area, you need to make it a point to stop by, get things taken care of, get things ready to go, because it's going to be a great night of professional wrestling action as MLW presents War Chamber live in St. Petersburg, Florida. Real quick here, we're going to go ahead and make a couple of brief announcements here. Again, want to make a reminder for those of you that enjoy professional wrestling, and we talked about this earlier on this evening. Want to give a shout out to several of the promotions right now who, as it stands, are getting prepared for a lot of events that are going to be taking place here in the next few weeks. And I want to make sure that I've got the correct information here as it relates to them. The first one I want to remind people, for those that are a part or enjoy the wrestling of the day, you need to make it a point to take part and watch or go and be a part of the SICW Fan Fest 2, which is going to be taking place. I'm actually pulling up the information right now, and also want to give a personal shout out. And I know that the Night Owl is going to get upset with me, but the brand new AIWF National Champion, Superstar Steve Fender, winning that championship this past weekend. Again, I know promoter Herb Simmons wasn't too happy about how things went down, but to give you an idea, the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, the Pro Shirt Shop, and SICW present Fan Fest 2. It's on May 18th, Saturday, at the Aviator Hotel and Ballroom. Tickets are available at sicw.org. And I mean, again, if you get an opportunity to check out sicw.org, you're going to see the graphic. And I mean, there are so many people, so many faces that are going to be a part of Fan Fest 2. It's a hot ticket. You need to make sure you get that taken care of. Also, as a reminder, too, the Wrestle Talk podcast once again is going to be on the road. We are going to be taking part again in this year's Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame induction weekend in Waterloo, Iowa at the Dan Gable Museum, July 18th through 20th of 2024. For information, you can log on to Facebook and get your information. You can also go to the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. I believe right now the price, I want to say, as I'm going to go back up here and I want to look at this as we're putting forward the information, I believe that the tickets, as of right now, looking back at what's here, tickets are right now, the all access passes are $150. And I'm going to tell you right now, you get the opportunity of where you get to have trivia with the wrestlers. You get the opportunity to meet wrestlers. And the opening night kickoff event has such individuals as Jerry Briscoe, Jim Miller, James Beard. I know last year wrestlers like JBL was there, Thunderbolt Patterson, Bill DeMott, Les Thatcher from Heartland Wrestling. I mean, you name it, everybody was there. A lot of great representation from the promotions in the St. Louis area, as well as a lot of the Iowa promotions as well. Podcasters Collective, with Wrestle Talk Podcast, will be taking part in this year. For those that are in professional wrestling, a great pro wrestling seminar. Pardon me. Impact Pro Wrestling show. Also, you're going to have an episode of the Briscoe and Big Ace podcast. And you're also have an opportunity for a Legends autograph signing and the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I'm going to tell you, last year, and I'm hopefully going to be able soon to be posting some of our pictures from the trip, had an opportunity to meet a man who really has done a lot in the world of podcasting. An opportunity myself to sit for just a few moments and talk with the man himself, Conrad Thompson. Had an opportunity to talk to people like Haku, to talk like my good friend, Mr. Wonderful himself, Rock Riddle. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I do know there's going to be a lot of people there. I believe wrestlers like, or people like Tony Schiavone is going to be there. Greg Gagne is going to be there. John Nord is scheduled to be there. Conrad Thompson has said he is going to be there. I believe Jeff Jarrett said he was going to be there. Nikita Koloff is going to be there. I mean, you name it. You need to make a point. Get your ticket early. Right now, $150 is what it's going to take to get you there. It's going to be a great weekend of professional wrestling information. And who knows, we might get the wonderful one himself. He may have to lug his gold through all the wonderful checkpoints that you have when you're getting on an airplane, and he may be flying back up here to the great state of Iowa for the Hall of Fame. I got to tell you right now, Gabriel, tonight has been a great show. I really think it's been a great show. Talked a lot of things in high spots. Talked about MLW intimidation games. What are your thoughts of tonight, Gabriel?
I mean, the fact that 2 hours went by that quickly is pretty amazing. And we still have so much more to talk about with MLW, but it's so much more that we can fill out for next week's show. And I'm looking forward to it.
You know something? You kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit. And that is because, and again, as of right now, you need to make sure you tune in next week. Back by popular demand, the MWF Micro Wrestling Federation is going to be back here on the Wrestle Talk podcast next week. And I'm going to tell you right now, the man himself, Lil Show, the Redneck Brawler, the MWF champion, is going to be in the house next week right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. You heard me right. The man from Big Little Brawlers, the champion himself, is going to be right here in the house next week. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make it a point to send a shout out to our great sponsors, Royal Mills Transportation. If you're needing any kind of transportation in the greater Kansas City area, make it a point to check them out. Get a hold of Juwan Mills, Nobleman's Barber Lounge, Kansas City, Kingcade Arcade at the Oak Park Mall, our great friends Jeremy Karp, Christopher Miles, and all the great folks over at Interstate 70 Sports Media, Little Popeye Designs. You want to buy one of those great Wrestle Talk podcast tumblers, make it a point to get in contact with us. We'll make sure you get you hooked up with that. And the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. As a matter of fact, you can see right there, Gabriel showing off that Warriors Heart Championship. And I got to tell you right now, as you saw earlier tonight, Universe Mania 10, that championship is going to be on the line. Gabriel, before we let you go here tonight, any final thoughts heading into Universe Mania?
It's just like I said, you don't want to miss it, but viewer discretion is advised.
You heard it right there from the Warriors Heart Champion. Again, as a reminder, if you ever have any kind of problem, any kind of stress, any kind of issue that makes you think about things that a lot of people shouldn't have to think about, make it a point to contact somebody. You know, a lot of people care about you. National Suicide Prevention Hotline, 988. They're available 24/7, 365. Make it a point. Again, talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your loved ones, because when it comes down to it, nobody should have to go down those dark pathways when it comes to things in the world. You've got a lot of friends that'll be more than happy to show you what's going on. Also, again, one last reminder for those of you that enjoy MLW. As a reminder, on pardon me, we're going to go ahead here and get this graphic back up. MLW War Chamber is going to be taking place in the month of March in St. Petersburg, Florida. As you look right there, March 29th, Friday night, March 29th at the Coliseum in St. Petersburg, Florida. Again, Eventbrite, you can get your ticket information. You can also catch it on Triller TV. A lot of great things happening in the world of professional wrestling. We're on the road to WrestleMania. We're on the road to Universe Mania. And we're on the road to episode 500 of the Wrestle Talk podcast. I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, from top to bottom, once again, a great night of professional wrestling talk. For more information about the Wrestle Talk podcast, make it a point to share us on all forms of social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram. Make it a point to go ahead and tell all your friends, tell your family what's going on each and every Tuesday night right here, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock in the mountain time zone, and 5 o'clock on the Pacific time zone. Each and every week is the Wrestle Talk podcast right here for everybody to see. Make it a point, tell your friends and your family. For Gabriel and Luke, we'll see you next week right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Take care, and we'll see you next week right here.